Election Day 2023 is Tuesday, November the 7th. One very important race in this year's election is for the seat of the Harlan County District Judge. 3 candidates are jousting for that position, and tonight we meet and get to know those candidates.
In a forum sponsored by the Harlan County Chamber of Commerce, this is Judicial Joust 2023.
Now here is your moderator for tonight's event, Tracy Turner.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Judicial Joust, the premier political platform where you, the viewers and voters, get a chance to know the candidates of the esteemed position for Harlan District Judge. I'm your host and moderator, Tracy Turner, and tonight we're here to delve into the platforms, the visions, and the qualifications of each of these candidates. This is your opportunity to get a closer look at who might be making those critical decisions from the bench. So let's not waste any more time. Let the joust begin.
When you do your holiday shopping at local businesses, your dollars stay in the community and help promote retail growth and diversity. Local shops often carry goods you won't find online, and our support helps them to stay in business and continue to benefit the entire community. Yes, we all benefit by thinking and shopping local first. Happy holidays from the Harlan County Chamber of Commerce. Be sure to shop local this holiday season.
Welcome into Eastern Broadcasting's Judicial Joust 2023. I'm your host for tonight's forum, Tracy Turner. Judicial Joust is brought to you by the Harlan County Chamber of Commerce and Eastern Broadcasting. And we're presenting to you, the voters of Harlan County, our 3 candidates for Harlan District Judge. And this evening, we're pleased to have with us Mr. Danny Lunsford of Everett's. Mr. Lunsford, it's great to have you here, and we really appreciate you coming by and giving us your views and your opinions on this important race, and to let us know who you are and what you stand for. First of all, I guess just tell us a little bit about Danny Lunsford.
Well, I'm born and raised in Everett's, graduated from Everett's High School in 2005, one of the last few classes from Everett's High School. I was born to Danny Lunsford Sr., a butcher at Don's, the late Linda Lamb Parton, and the late my grandmother, Della Pace, who adopted me, who recently passed away. She was a tailor. She raised me. I'm a lifelong conservative, registered as a Republican at 18, involved in Republican politics in college and in law school, out and proud conservative my entire life. I bring that up, and some people don't like that in judicial races, and I completely understand that, but in Kentucky, we elect our judges.
Right.
So I think it's important for people to know, as a starting point, kind of where you are. We know the 2 parties have, in general, different views on how the law should be interpreted, how it should be enforced, how it should be enacted. So me telling you my political preference and how I've been in my entire life gives you a good, I think, foundation going forward on how I would be as a judge and how I interpret the law, or would interpret the law if blessed to be your next district judge. I'm the kind of guy who the legislator creates the law, and I'll just be there to interpret it and enforce it as it's written. Not to add words, not to subtract, not to find a conclusion that I want, but rather to find the conclusion that the law requires, and if the law changes, I'll enforce that law. But that's been my general principle as a lawyer, and it will be my guiding light as your next district judge.
Okay. The first question we have here on our list, what do you think are the most pressing community issues related to the courts and law enforcement right now? The most pressing?
Certainly for Harlan County, it's going to be our drug issue. Obviously, the entire Appalachian area has been absolutely ravaged with drugs. When I first started law, probably our biggest problem was meth. Now we're here today. The biggest issues are fentanyl, which is incredibly deadly. We have paramedics and law enforcement officers who can overdose just by touching it at a crime scene. That's certainly the biggest issue facing us in the judicial system. As a district court judge, what can I do about that? Not a whole lot, because generally those kind of drug related issues involve felonies. District court doesn't handle felonies, but now as a lower court, generally people come before the district court on drug charges initially to plead not guilty, and initial bond is set until they're indicted. A lot of times, I think bonds are set too low for traffickers. They get out too early, and what happens oftentimes is they pick up new charges before they can even be indicted on the old charges. Yeah. I don't have, the law limits how much control I have, because the district court can only set a bond for 60 days. If they're not indicted in the 60 days, we've got to take that up with the Commonwealth's Attorney's office and the Circuit Judge's office. But when they come before me, if they're charged with serious crimes like trafficking in fentanyl, trafficking in heroin, those super deadly drugs, and I'll do my best to make sure they're not out in our society peddling that stuff for as long as I can.
There's an increasing push to no longer use cash bonds for incarcerated individuals, and based on the theory that unfairly punishes the impoverished. What is your position on cash bonds? Do you feel that other conditions or restrictions can adequately replace the cash bond?
Well, first I would say that's the province of the legislator. Obviously, as a judge, we can't do away with cash bonds. Some states have. California, I think, was one of the most notable ones. If I were creating the laws, I would say yes. I think cashless bonds are better, because it's really a disadvantage. If you have two people who are charged with the exact same charge, same history, you give them both a $10,000 bond. One comes from a wealthy family, one doesn't. One gets out of jail and can meet with his attorney, prepare for trial, while the other one, who has the exact same history, they're all equal except for how much money they got in the bank. Mm-hmm. He can't get out. He can't have access to his attorney as much as the other person can. So it's kind of an uneven playing field when we're dealing with pure money issues, because the more money you have, is obviously the more freedom you have in the judicial system when it comes to a bond type issue or even a fine. So other conditions, I think, are better, as far as setting a curfew, making sure you're home at a certain amount of time, checking in with pretrial services, don't commit any new offenses while you're out in jail. I do think cash bonds are kind of antiquated way to go about it. I think that we can ensure people will show up for court and don't commit new offenses while out on bond, if they're granted one, without the use of property bonds or cash bonds.
Okay. One of the previous judges had instituted the district court drug court. What are your plans with regards to drug court? Do you plan to continue it, to expand it, and if so, how?
I absolutely want to expand it. Judge Lisenby created that soon after he took the bench back in 2015. That was one of the things when I ran back in 2015 with Judge Lisenby and Mr. Lee. That was one of the platforms I ran on then, and I'm still running on it now. Drug court is one of the absolute best programs to make sure when people complete it, there's a very high rate of those who get sober and stay sober. If they go through the entire program, it's one of the more successful ones we have in the entire country. I want to expand it, get more people into it. People with felony charges, those can be amended down with permission of the Commonwealth Attorney's Office to a misdemeanor charge, enter the drug court or the district drug court rather than the circuit drug court. We can get people clean and sober before they pick up a felony charge, before they lose their right to vote, before they lose their right to handguns, before they lose all these other rights that come with a felony conviction. If we can get them clean and sober and back on the right path, I think we should do that. So I want to get more people into the district court drug program to help them, to help their families, and to make our communities safer.
Okay. On charges of trafficking, what changes would you make on those charges, if any?
All trafficking charges are felony offenses. There is no misdemeanor trafficking charge. So a district court judge can't do a lot except, like we talked about earlier, setting a bond. Mm-hmm. Trafficking is a more serious charge than possession. If you're trafficking, you're making money and you're putting the stuff out into society rather than just using it. So I think it's a more serious charge and warrants a more serious, ultimately a more serious punishment. But again, the district court doesn't punish those kind of charges, but it would warrant a more serious bond.
Right. Once again, if you're just joining us, this is Judicial Joust 2023, brought to you by the Harlan County Chamber of Commerce and Eastern Broadcasting. And my guest on this evening is one of the candidates for Harlan District Judge, Mr. Danny Lunsford. And Danny, our next question is kind of two-part here. How do you plan to ensure impartiality and fairness in your rulings? And how do you plan to manage a caseload and prioritize these cases?
I think I've developed a reputation throughout the years for, and I'll just use the words that other people use, I'm not afraid to make people mad. I've had other attorneys who, they have consultations with clients, and it involves, we'll say, some big name people who are pushers and movers in the county. They don't want to get personally involved. They refer them to me because they know I will go to bat for people, even if it upsets those same movers and pushers in this county. As a judge, I'm going to be the exact same. It doesn't matter what your last name is. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter your lineage or what office you hold in this county. I'll do what the law requires me to do, regardless of who that upsets or who that makes happy. So that's always been my philosophy, and I'll take that onto the bench as well.
How do you plan to manage your caseload and sort of prioritize the cases?
So one of the things I would do as district judge, probably the earliest ones, is, we have every day right now is set. We have different types of cases. Mondays are typically traffic arraignments and also preliminary hearings on felony charges. Tuesdays are trials. Wednesdays we have the juvenile docket, which are confidential. And Thursdays we have probate and small claims and district civil cases. I think a lot of those can be kind of combined. I don't think we need every Wednesday for juvenile cases. I would reduce that to 2 times a month rather than every single week. The trial dockets are too small. Right now we're at a maximum of about 20 per day or 20 per week. And what happens is it's pretty rare to have a trial in district court. So you have these 20 cases, they might or might not get resolved on that day, but when trials are set, they're getting set out for over a year in advance because we have this kind of artificial maximum of 20. We don't need that. We can expand that. Trials, since they don't happen often, we can set more cases that are set for trial on the trial docket, more than 20, 40, 60, something like that. Get those cases resolved and off the docket. And then beyond that, just really kind of moving the traffic tickets along as quickly as I can. We don't need a chit-chat. I know law enforcement needs to get out there. The more time they're in the district courtroom, the less time they're out patrolling those streets. So I want them in and out. I want the attorneys in and out, and I want the people in and out who are there on minor stuff. We'll get you in and out as quickly as possible.
Let's see. How would you handle a situation where your personal beliefs conflict with established law or legal precedents?
I don't foresee that being an issue with me. I can tell you I'm very good at compartmentalizing. As an attorney for the past 10 years, a good chunk of that has been for public defense, representing criminal clients who are charged with felonies, and in the juvenile system, representing parents who are accused of some pretty serious things. I've represented people I don't like, and I know, if good wins, I don't in that case. That doesn't prevent me from going to court and advocating for my client as hard as I can, making the best legal arguments I can. As judge, I can do the same thing. I can know there might be outcomes that I personally wouldn't want, but if that's what the law requires, that's what the law requires, and we can take that issue up with our legislator if a law needs to be changed. But that's not my role as judge. And I'm not going to change that if I'm elected as judge.
What are your thoughts on alternative dispute resolution methods, such as mediation or arbitration? What are your thoughts on that?
Mediation is used a lot in circuit court where the stakes are higher. It's not going to be used often in district court just because the civil cases in district court, the amount of controversy has to be less than $5,000. Mediation is expensive. It has to be a licensed mediator who's usually an attorney. It's usually going to cost you, even on the low end, around $1,000, $1,500. If the amount of controversy is only at the maximum $5,000, using a mediator is usually going to be the role of the judge, like in small claim cases. Yeah. That's what my role is going to be, to see if there's going to be a way that the parties can come to terms and go away, if not happy, but at least satisfied. So that's where kind of mediation would come into play as district court. And I'm fully aware of that, and will do that if in small claims as much as I can. But if things ultimately can't be worked out, then I'll just rule what the law requires.
Okay. On small claims court cases, do you have any plans to make any changes there? And what changes would you make, if any?
I don't think I would make any changes. I know the practice for Judge Lisenby, and because it's very rare to have an attorney in small claims. I have been in it once or twice just as a favor for a person. Judge Lisenby had the practice of, when the case was called, to always make the parties go in the back room and have them just talk amongst themselves, see if they can come to an agreement. I think that's a good idea. I probably, if I changed anything, maybe I'll just be more involved myself from the bench to say, here's kind of what the law says. Here's kind of where we probably would land if the evidence is what you think it is. And then hopefully that kind of pushes people to the middle to resolve something. But I wouldn't make any big changes to the small claims court.
Okay. Is there any specific change you would like to implement as district judge, just over the board, over the entire board? Any changes that you think needs to be made?
An open court system. We got in a practice, and this was, I don't know. I didn't practice under Judge Ham. I know I practiced under Judge Brock and Judge Lisenby. And most court dates, the parties or everybody on the docket waited outside in the lobby. We're based on an open court system where everybody can see what's going on, except for the few cases like juvenile cases, which are confidential, or cases law, which are confidential. That's where you send somebody off to rehab. But most cases are supposed to be open to the public, and I want to return to that. I think everybody should be in the court system so they can see what's happening. They're seeing what I'm doing, that I'm being fair. They're seeing that their elected county attorneys being fair. They see that the attorneys are doing their job, and they see what other people are getting in similar situations. That's how democracies work. So we're going to open the court system back up, unless it's a confidential matter. I want the doors open. I want the people in. That way they can see that the court system is working the way it's supposed to be working.
Okay, let's say someone comes to you. They don't know Danny Lunsford. They've heard the name, but they don't know Danny Lunsford. And they do know that you're a candidate for district judge. How would you approach them? How would you describe yourself to them?
I'm a conservative. I'm a child of God. I realize that a lot of people come before me, and with a lot of the clients I've represented, that but for the grace of God, there goes I. As a person who has received grace, I know as a judge, you got to temper justice with mercy at all times, and know that sometimes situations take control. Sometimes things are out of people's hands that leads to certain situations. I understand that. That doesn't mean people get a free pass. It doesn't mean I'm going to let everything slide. There has to be consequences to actions. But I always will keep in mind as a child of God that we're all sinners, and that on my best day, my righteousness is as filthy rags.
Yeah. Well, Danny, we appreciate you coming by this evening. We've been talking with Mr. Danny Lunsford of Everett's. He is a candidate for the Harlan County District Judges seat, one of 3 candidates that we'll be bringing you here on Judicial Joust 2023. I'm Tracy Turner. Thank you for joining us. I don't know how we were on time or anything on that.
When you do your holiday shopping at local businesses, your dollars stay in the community and help promote retail growth and diversity. Local shops often carry goods you won't find online, and our support helps them to stay in business and continue to benefit the entire community. Yes, we all benefit by thinking and shopping local first. Happy holidays from the Harlan County Chamber of Commerce. Be sure to shop local this holiday season.
Judicial Joust is brought to you by the Harlan County Chamber of Commerce and Eastern Broadcasting. I'm Tracy Turner, your host and moderator for tonight, and we're presenting to you, the voters of Harlan County, our 3 candidates for the seat of Harlan District Judge. And this evening, we're pleased to have with us Cynthia Allison. Cynthia, it's great to have you here, and we appreciate you coming by and letting our viewers and listeners know who you are and what you stand for in this election.
Thanks for inviting me. I'm really excited to be here.
We're going to be asking all of the candidates the same questions. And the first question on our list is, what are the most pressing community issues related to the courts and law enforcement in your opinion?
I feel like the drug problem, it seeps into all areas of law. You have the criminal side, of course, and then you have it seeping into the custody issues, parents on drugs, so that puts a strain on foster homes and dependency, neglect, and abuse cases. Some of the drugs now, particularly the meth, it's eating people's brains. So that's causing more mental health cases. 202As, trying to get people help with those. So yeah, it's like a big onion. I mean, the drug problem started. I mean, I guess we always had some issues with alcohol and drugs, but in the 90s with the opioid epidemic, it's just snowballed. And as in my practice, I'm seeing third generation usage. So when you've got kids growing up with parents who are on drugs, who grew up with parents on drugs. I mean, literally, there are some people that just don't even have any basic life skills because they've never seen sober people function in society. So getting a handle on the drug problem would help so much address all the issues, basically, that come before the district court, I think.
There's an increasing push to no longer use cash bonds for incarcerated individuals based on the theory that it unfairly punishes the impoverished. What's your position on cash bonds? Do you feel that other conditions or restrictions can adequately replace the cash bond?
Absolutely. I think as far as most of the cases that come before misdemeanor court, there's really not a whole lot of place for cash bonds, especially in a community that struggles economically, with little to no opportunity for a big portion of our community. I would strongly support no cash bond for nonviolent crimes in particular. And pretrial is there to help people make their court dates. Right? I think most people who remember court come to court. But sometimes court dates are set way out in advance, and if you are what the court system likes to call at-risk population, homeless, or if you have you're couch surfing, or you don't have money for a cell phone, or you may get your mail once a month, you miss court dates. So I think as a judge, you have to be sensitive to that, because putting people in jail and burdening people with extra costs when they're struggling already just sets people spiraling. It can really cause a crisis for a family. So I would promote cash bonds in a situation where an individual is dangerous, or the individual is committing crimes that might keep the community, that might put the community in danger, so to speak. But for a speeding ticket or that kind of thing, I just really don't support cash bonds.
Right. One of the previous judges had instituted the district court drug court. What are your plans with regards to drug court? Do you plan to continue with it, to expand it, or do away with it?
I love drug court. I'm such a fan of drug court. I've been on this, what they now call, they don't even call it drug court anymore. We're supposed to call it specialty courts.
Yeah.
So I've been a member of specialty court for the last 10 years, and I have seen such a difference it makes with people. Rehab serves its purpose, but when people are in rehab, it's kind of insular. It's like a little protective bubble. So you get to be sober and you get to focus on yourself, and you deal with a lot of eternal things, which are important. But what it fails to do is it fails to equip people in the moment in their lives. So when you get released from treatment with back to your regular life, you've got bills to pay, you've got kids that are crying, you've got car that break down, you've got those life stressors that challenge sobriety.
Right.
So what drug court does is it helps people pause like if they have a relapse they choose to use maybe in a particular incident, it causes people to pause in that moment, and then the therapist and the groups help that individual process, well, why did you choose drugs as an answer in this situation instead of looking for other solutions. The drug court helps people in crisis, help people get stable, looking for safe places for them to live, encouraging people to think beyond just drug usage and sobriety, but let's get your education, let's get you a job, let's work on getting your kids back. So drug court is one of my favorite things. I would expand it if I could. That would be in consult, I think, with the county attorney's office and the Commonwealth's office on how they would like to see that happen. But I would also, this is a little on the side, I would also like to start utilizing some resources I learned about that they have in Floyd County. Functions like drug court, but it's veterans court. Okay. And so, just as drug addicts help other drug addicts get off of drugs, veterans can help other veterans process what happened to them and their life, and help them out of whatever situation they're in. So I would not only look to expand drug court, but I would also embrace trying to help our veterans here access veterans court.
On charges of trafficking, what changes would you make, if any? Trafficking in drugs. Well,
I know this is something I don't know all the ins and outs of, but officers wearing cameras really help.
Body cams.
Right. It helps catch people, in action, and it helps resolve cases, Okay. I had a client once that was actually, we had body cams for a while, and it showed my client clearly doing that, and it helped quickly resolve the case. So I think that would be something I would add if I could.
How do you plan to ensure impartiality and fairness in all of your rulings?
One thing that's important in impartiality and fairness is the ability to listen. I've been trained to listen to my clients and really get to know them as people. And we didn't really talk about this before we started, but I've worked as a public defender for the past 10 years. Lots of times my clients are the clients that aren't seen by society. Right? So it's us versus them kind of thing. Well, those drug addicts or whatever. So that's kind of trained me to look beyond the surface and see people, all people. Working with legal aid before that, sometimes we make decisions about people based upon their economic circumstances. I've worked with those people in the civil capacity as well. So I would listen to both sides. I would make sure the law that the procedures are followed, and then I would review the statute, and then apply all the facts to that and make sure that the law is followed and everybody has been heard.
Right. Do you have any particular way in mind to prioritize cases? How do you plan to manage a caseload and prioritize cases?
Well, as a public defender, as you know, we have a huge caseload, and I multitask all day long. I may be working on a case, talking to somebody on the phone, and then telling my staff something else that needs to be done. So I'm very good at multitasking. I'm very good at dealing with people who are experiencing some, like, their worst day, basically. As far as caseload goes, people who are in jail need to be prioritized. If they don't need to be jailed, they need to get out, because being in jail can totally derail your life. The seriousness of the offense, and the safety to the community, those things, all the cases that involve those three things, or the concern of those three things, need to be prioritized.
Okay. How would you handle a situation where your personal beliefs conflict with established law or legal precedents?
Well, you have to apply the law.
Right.
I mean, your personal beliefs are what they are. But when you are in the role as a lawyer, but in particular as a judge, I need to know the law, not just the statute, but the case law supporting, that interprets that.
Right.
And I have a duty to uphold the law. I don't have any leeway on that.
What are your thoughts on alternative dispute resolution methods? We're talking like mediation and arbitration.
I love mediation. People who are part of the process on the outcome of their situation have more of a buy-in. In particular, in criminal situations, it's been very successful in cases that I've mediated. It allows the victim to have their day in court without exposure, without being in an open courtroom. They get to say what they come to say and process that. Sometimes a defendant doesn't want to hear what their lawyer has to say. In particular, clients don't like to hear what their public defenders have to say because they value paid lawyers more. I hear that every day. So it's really good for an unbiased person, or most of the time it's a retired judge, to say to both the victim and the defendant, this is kind of how I see the outcome of this going, and work to try to move parties to the middle. But I used to say in divorce court, if somebody leaves the table not especially happy, but not horribly dissatisfied, then a good medium was found, and mediation helps do that.
Great. On small claims court cases, what changes, if any, would you make in small claims?
Okay, so I think I'm just gonna have to be upfront on this one. I've just about done everything in the world that there is to be done in district court with legal aid. As a legal aid attorney, I represent all the civil stuff, but I've not really had much experience with small claims. So small claims is something that I'm going to, I don't really have enough information about that to comment. But I will say, if I don't know something, I'll research it. And I will look for ways to be efficient, and I will make sure that the law is followed.
Okay, that's great. Is there any specific change you would like to implement as district judge? Anything that you see that maybe does need to be changed?
Well, district court has a lot of volume.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a lot of people that don't come to court. And that was made worse by COVID.
Yeah.
So I have been thinking about ways to structure court and to encourage people to come to court to take care of their business.
Right.
I'm not sure why people don't come to court. But people not coming to court and then calling back later, wanting new dates or whatever, or getting put in jail, just becomes a drain on the system, right? I mean, if they go to jail, that's a financial drain on the county. It's a drain on the lawyers. You have to add them back to the docket. It just is double and triple the work for the judge, the clerks, and the lawyers involved. So those Harlan Countyans that are listening to me, please come to court. So I would work on trying to figure out, why people aren't coming to court and how we can motivate them to do that.
Great. If you were introduced to someone who didn't know you, but they were aware that you were a candidate for judge, to wrap this up, just describe yourself and your platform that you're running on.
Okay, so the reason I want to be district judge is I love district court, and I think district court is in a position to really stop people who are in maybe a downward spiral. Maybe they're having addiction issues, and they're maybe they are committing crimes because of addiction issues. It's a way to connect people with resources and cause them to pause in the moment and hopefully turn their life around so they live their best life. I chose to raise my kids here. I have 3 children. I love this community. I've spent not only my professional life giving back to the community or representing people who didn't have money for lawyers, but I've also been very involved in community things. I've been on the board for the Harlan Independent School District for at least a decade. I'm on the board for the Senior Citizen Center. I'm on the Regional Teach for America board. I helped write the grant that brought us the Hope Center. I was a co-chair of the very first Unite chapter in Kentucky. We worked really hard to bring that to Harlan. So I really love the people here. I really love our community, and I want our community to be safe and healthy and moving forward. And sometimes just representing by someone as a lawyer isn't a big enough platform to maybe make a significant difference in the community. But that's my goal. That's why I really want to be Harlan. I love people. I love Harlan Countyans, and I just want Harlan to be the best place it can be.
Great. Well, you're watching Judicial Joust. We're talking with the 3 candidates who are vying for the position of Harlan District Judge. And tonight we've been talking with Cynthia Allison. Cynthia, thank you for coming by.
It's been a pleasure.
We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And we want to remind you all to get out and vote on Tuesday, November the 7th.
Oh, can I add something?
Yes.
I did mean to. The judge's race is nonpartisan. So I know lots of our voters like to vote a straight ticket. So if you are voting a straight ticket, please remember that the judge's race is not part of that.
Right.
You have to go separately to choose your candidate. And, selfishly, I'd like for you to choose me. I'm number 1 on the ballot.
Well, that's great. Yeah. Well, always keep in mind the judges' races are nonpartisan. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Judicial Joust.
When you do your holiday shopping at local businesses, your dollars stay in the community and help promote retail growth and diversity. Local shops often carry goods you won't find online, and our support helps them to stay in business and continue to benefit the entire community. Yes, we all benefit by thinking and shopping local first. Happy holidays from the Harlan County Chamber of Commerce. Be sure to shop local this holiday season.
And welcome back to Judicial Joust, brought to you by the Harlan County Chamber of Commerce. I'm your host and moderator this evening, Tracy Turner, and we're presenting to you the three candidates who are vying for the position of Harlan District Judge here in Harlan County. And this evening we're pleased to have with us one of those candidates, Jason Jackson. Jason, it's good to have you here.
Absolutely.
And we appreciate you coming by.
Pleasure to be here.
First of all, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. People will see on the ballot that my name is Timothy Jason Jackson. Most everybody knows me as Jason. I'm the son of Otis Jackson and Vicki Owens. My dad has been the butcher at Max/Cash Saver for over 50 years. So I've come to introduce myself as I'm Jason Jackson, Otis Jackson's son. My mother was a nurse. She worked out at the hospital for many years and got a job with Hospice of the Bluegrass and retired from there. My step-parents, my stepmother, Julie Jackson, she was a nurse practitioner at the Daniel Boone Clinic for many years. And my stepfather, Fred Owens, he is a local attorney specializing in bankruptcy. My wife, Hope Jackson, she was a Farley before we got married, is a middle school math teacher at Harlan Independent. I have two children. Addison is 16 and Caden, he is 14.
Okay, to get started, what are the most pressing community issues related to the courts and law enforcement right now, in your opinion?
A lot of people would say that the drug epidemic that we face here in Eastern Kentucky is the biggest problem, and I would probably agree with that. The drug problem kind of filters down into other crimes that we see a lot of in district court. Theft cases, assaults, domestic issues that the district court has to deal with. So I think that the drug epidemic is definitely the biggest issue that we face in every court system, both district and circuit, as well as family court here in Harlan. So I think that is one of the most pressing issues that any judicial personnel will have to deal with, both presently and in the future.
Okay, there's an increasing push to no longer use cash bonds for incarcerated individuals based on the theory that it unfairly punishes the impoverished. What's your position on cash bonds? Do you feel that other conditions or restrictions can adequately replace those?
I am a proponent of cash bonds, have been. I was a prosecutor for several years, so I am definitely a big proponent of cash bonds. Now, the application of those bonds has to be reasonable, and what is reasonable for one is definitely not reasonable for the other. So you have to look at each individual case and base that cash bond on each individual situation. So it's not, it never should be applied statically across the board. It has to be a reasonable bond for each individual situation. And there's a lot of factors that kind of go into that. It's past criminal history, ability to pay. Definitely all those things have to be looked at. And, being able to apply to each individual situation, I think, is something that previous district court judges have done and done very well here in Harlan, and I look to continue that as well.
Great. One of the previous judges instituted the district drug court. What are your plans with regards to drug court? Do you plan to continue it, to expand it, or how?
Yes, definitely look to continue it. I would love to expand that particular program. When I was a prosecutor, like I said before, we utilized drug court as a big part of rehabilitation efforts. Instead of sending people to prison, definitely drug court is one of those situations that is a useful tool. It lowers recidivism rates. In some situations or some cases, people actually really benefit from it. Job training is definitely a component. Community service, I think, should be a very large part of drug court. And you have to remember that in a lot of these situations, the people that are in these or in the cases definitely, in some instances, took away from their community. So I want to put the community service aspect into that drug court program, and if that goes well, definitely expand. I think right now we've got a relatively small drug court, and up until if the voters of Harlan elect me, I want to fine tune as much as possible, get a good working model for that particular drug court, and expand from there.
Right. On charges of drug trafficking, what changes would you make, if any?
The district court really does not have that much. When you say drug trafficking, I'm going on the assumption that we're talking about felony drug trafficking charges, which would be trafficking in the first and trafficking in the second. We really don't have that much to do with those particular charges. They're arraigned, where they plead guilty or not guilty at the initial court appearance, and then if they so choose, they have a preliminary hearing, which we listen to the evidence as presented by the officer and the defendant, and determine whether or not there's probable cause to send that case on to the grand jury. Those particular cases are dealt with in circuit court and not so much in district court.
Right. How do you plan to ensure impartiality and fairness in your rulings?
Absolutely. That is a big concern across the state and across the country as a whole. I have always looked at myself as a person that would like to see everybody on the same level. So just because last names don't affect any decisions that I make, community status will not affect any decisions that I make. Everybody will have the promise that I will treat them with the utmost respect, dignity, fairness, and courtesy. Courtesy is one of those big things that just because a judge is up on that bench does not mean that he has the ability to talk down to any particular person, to treat them any differently than they would the next particular defendant. So I can ensure that impartiality, fairness, courtesy, and dignity will be bestowed on everybody that comes before me, and everybody will be treated the same before me if I am elected judge.
How do you plan to manage a caseload and set priorities in these cases?
Definitely. District court caseload is immense, and we not only deal with traffic offenses such as speeding, motor vehicle violations. We deal with small claims, evictions, probates, juvenile cases that involve charges of dependency, neglect, or abuse. So it's a cornucopia of cases that we have to deal with. The priorities are going to be put on the cases that definitely are the most serious. In my eyes, I think that priority number one should be protecting the children of this county. Dependency, neglect, and abuse cases have always been something that I've been very interested in. I've always, ever since I came back to Harlan in 2008, minus the time that I was prosecuting, I've always been involved in Harlan District Court's dependency, neglect, and abuse cases as either counsel for the child or counsel for one of the parents involved or anybody that's exercising custody and control. So that is definitely priority number one is protecting the safety and the well-being of the children. After those particular cases, the biggest case load that we have or type of cases is definitely the misdemeanor criminal cases, the traffic violations, and just know that if the voters elect me, that their cases will be dealt with swiftly, correctly. There will not be any dead space, so to speak, in district court's days. We will work with the schedule that we have been, and we'll modify that and make sure that all cases are heard in a timely manner.
Great. How would you handle a situation where your personal beliefs conflict with established law or legal precedents?
The number one job of any judge is to apply the law and apply the law the same uniformly across the situation. So if the facts speak to any particular statute, that statute has to be applied, and my personal beliefs are not going to influence any decisions that are made. Impartiality is definitely a very strong belief as far as not only just being impartial but appearing impartial. So my personal beliefs will not impact the way that I apply the law to any particular set of facts. Now, obviously, if I know that I cannot be impartial, I will absolutely recuse myself from any case that I don't feel like that I can give every party a fair shake.
Right. What are your thoughts on alternative dispute resolution methods such as mediation and arbitration?
I attended the Appalachian School of Law in Grundy, Virginia, and their focus was around alternative dispute resolution. It's a changing environment, just like everything, the law and how it is accomplished, so to speak, definitely changes. Alternative dispute resolution is definitely a good tool to use. It doesn't work in every situation. I know I'm referring a lot back to my time as a prosecutor, but while I was there, the state instituted felony mediation for criminal cases. Those particular cases were mediated by retired judges, and it worked phenomenally. It gives both parties an understanding from a neutral third party how their case will probably proceed. And it gives the litigants or the parties that are involved a different perspective, so to speak. Yeah. So I think that it can be utilized. In district court, it's not one of those things that I think we could use a lot, but I do think that in the appropriate situations, I would not be objectionable to the use of alternative dispute resolution or mediation.
On small claims court cases, are there any changes that you have in mind to make on those?
Not particularly changes. I think that everyone that has any particular claim needs to be know that they're going to be treated professionally in my courtroom. Just because they're not an attorney doesn't mean that I'm going to speak down to them, or obviously as a judge I can't practice law for them and I can't tell them what they need to do, but there are ways to talk to every litigant in every type of case. And I'm always a big proponent, and I tell my kids this as well. The golden rule has always been one of those situations, treat people the way that you would like to be treated. And I think that is very important for everybody to know that may come before me, that everybody should be treated the same and with dignity and respect, and they will get that in my court.
Okay, and finally, is there any specific changes you would like to implement as district judge, just across the board? Anything in specific?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing is scheduling. I think, I was always raised, if there's time to lean, there's time to clean. So dead time is not one of those things that I'm a big proponent of. I really feel like that if there are situations to where we can fit more cases in to keep the wheels of justice going at a productive rate, then that will absolutely be implemented. Just scheduling changes, I think, and really, I don't think that our previous district judge, I know our previous district judge did a very fine job, so I don't think there's anything that I would really change other than if we can work with the schedule, we can communicate with the jail, and that's one thing that I really feel like that needs to be looked at is how often we have jail arraignments. It's one of those things that can benefit the county as a whole. The more cases that we get processed through, the better that the wheels of justice will move.
If you were introduced to someone who didn't know you, but they knew that you were a candidate for a judge, how would you describe yourself to them?
Very hard worker. I believe that I would probably say that my mindset is if the job is there, it should be done to the best of my ability. So it's one of those things that anything that is worth doing at the best level. A family man. I do adore my family tremendously. They are my world. I'm just a common Harlan County person. I had dreams growing up. My parents gave me the motivation and the ability to achieve those dreams, and I'm sitting here as a candidate for district judge now. So it's one of those things that I am a product of my hard work, product of my family, and I just want to make Harlan County better in any way that a district court judge can, for the simple fact that this is my home. I chose to make it my children's home, so I just want to do what's best for Harlan County.
Right. Well, Mr. Jackson, we appreciate you coming by tonight and talking with us and letting our viewers understand who you are and what you stand for. And you've been watching Judicial Joust, which is presented by the Harlan County Chamber of Commerce. Be sure to get out and vote on Tuesday, November the 7th, and have a good evening.
When you do your holiday shopping at local businesses, your dollars stay in the community and help promote retail growth and diversity. Local shops often carry goods you won't find online, and our support helps them to stay in business and continue to benefit the entire community. Yes, we all benefit by thinking and shopping local first. Happy holidays from the Harlan County Chamber of Commerce. Be sure to shop local this holiday season.
And there you have it. You've had an opportunity to hear each of these candidates, how they've answered some very important questions. And while we may not have covered all the questions that are possible out there, I'm sure we've given you, the viewers and the voters, an opportunity to meet these fine candidates and decide for yourself who deserves to be sitting behind the bench of Harlan District Court. We had given the opportunity for the public to submit any questions that they might have, and we received only 2. Those 2 questions have been given to each of the candidates, and they have the opportunity to respond to the authors if they so choose. I'm Tracy Turner for Eastern Broadcasting, reminding you to get out and vote on Tuesday, November the 7th.
This has been a production of Eastern Broadcasting.